and welcome to Writing in the Weeds. You are here with your friends, Natasha, that is me, and Ginny. She's waving. If you're listening, she just waved. I am Natasha Lockie. I am a mountain bike coach, a life performance coach, and I'm just a big dreamer. And my purpose in life is really just jiggling the jelly bowl. I've always believed that you can have whatever it is you want. You just actually have to take the steps to get there. And this is where our topic is going to go today. Ginny, introduce yourself, and then I'm going to kick us off.
Yeah, I am Ginny Brandon. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. I work intuitively with your pet to help find out what your pet's perspective is on life and to help bring you back into a little bit more harmony if you're having struggles, or just to get to know your pet better if that's what you need.
Awesome. So before we start, I just want to say, if you are a regular listener, thank you and welcome back. We're stoked that you are here. And if you've just found us and you've never listened before, again, welcome. We're really excited that you've chosen to spend some time with us today. Our goal is to make this half an hour the best half an hour of your day and give you some insight and a little bit of reality, vulnerability, and real world perspective on what it can be like when we get writing in the weeds. So today we're just exploring, I think is the best way to say it. So we started our conversation today with something that my husband and I have been doing on a regular basis, and that is a little affirmation. So I saw this on an Instagram reel, and she said that if you do this 3 times a day for the next 7 days, that magical things will happen. And I was like, sure, I can do that. Let's take that on as an experiment. So repeat after me. I always have more money than I need.
I always have more money than I need.
And I cannot help but attract a lot of money into my life.
And I cannot help but attract a lot of money into my life.
So feel free to take this challenge on. I actually put it into my phone as a reminder, and 3 times a day it pops up, and I stop my husband and we say it together. If nothing else, it makes us giggle, it makes us laugh, and it connects us, which those things are good, right? So they can't help but move things forward. The next piece is a little mindset reset that I actually have taken from Mel Robbins. And how this one works is, the first step is, I want you to think about one win that you have created in the last 3 months. So I can't even remember what the one was that I came up with, but Ginny and I actually do a wins chat in Substack, which we would love if you would like to join us. All you got to do is subscribe to our podcast, free subscription. You don't need to be on the paywall, and you can join our chat. So every day we put in a win. We put 3 wins in actually for the day, and then we have added on to that as to what we're going to do for tomorrow as well, to just trying to get ourselves into that space. So one win that I've created in the last 3 months is finding this incredible job where right now I am looking at a gorgeous river rolling by with sparkly sun and this beautiful day, watching my husband get the water because our well's not currently working. What about you, Ginny?
I think the win I am most excited about is us starting to go to the gym regularly and adding that into our rhythm and our day. We're holding it lightly. We're not perfect. Our aim is 3 days a week, but this week we actually decided to take a skip because life's gotten a little too crazy, so we needed a little bit of a decompression break, but I'm loving it. I'm actually really liking it, and I've never been the kind of person that wanted to go do that, so that's been surprising and fun.
Awesome. I love it. And for those of you who are listening, please comment. Let us know. What are your answers to these questions? So then the second one is, what is a win that you have celebrated in the last 24 hours? And I'm going to start and say that I put the alarm on this morning and I got up at 7 o'clock and I did my workout. It was both hard and it was also really nice, and the sun was shining and the river was sparkling. As I went to bed last night, I was like, I'm excited to get up tomorrow morning. And this is a mindset shift that we're going to dig into this as we go through the podcast. As I got up and out of bed, I was like, I'm excited to get up. I am excited to start my day. I'm excited to go and do my workout. I am excited to do my yoga. I'm excited to do my podcast. I'm excited to go to the Trinont call that happens every Wednesday morning that I keep forgetting to go to, and I'm making it a habit to attend because the collagen and the wellness business that I have is really important to me, if for nothing else, to just teach myself to get into the habit of having better habits. What about you, Jenny?
Yeah, 24 hours. I did get to work B yesterday, and I also spent extra time grooming her because they're blowing their coats off like crazy right now, and she had not gotten as much attention as Storm. So I spent an extra 45 minutes just hanging out in the sunshine, scraping the hair off of her, which was gratifying. It's nice to see it all blowing away, and I'm just having a good time connecting with her. She's a pretty special little horse, and so I always enjoy the time I get to do that with her.
Awesome. I was about to say, and for those of you who are new, Bee and Storm are Jenny's horses that she hangs out with. Storm is her horse and Bee is her foster horse. So just some
yes,
clarity.
For anybody who hasn't been in the loop.
And then the third one is, what is the win that you're going to create in the next 3 months? And what's cool about this habit, if you actually start doing it every day, is you come up with a different one every day, right? So eventually you've got this stack of wins that you're going to create in the next 3 months, right? 3 months seems like a long time, and there are so many things that you want to do. So when you're actually given the opportunity to be like, what are you going to create? And adding to that, how is it going to feel? And if you were already that person, how would you go about your life? So today I was like, we're going to get 1,000 downloads on every podcast episode. Jenny's like, that's really big. So how would that feel? That would feel like people were listening, like we were really making a difference in the world, and what our message was really resonating with people. And what would light me up would be that what we are saying is inspiring. So if I am somebody who is able to inspire 1,000 people with every one of our podcast episodes, how would I go about my day? If I was already there, what would that look like, right? And how would that change my being? And I've just been listening to Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being You. And one of the things he says is, if you're already there, so what's your vision? And so now wake up every day as the person that's already had that happen. And he used the example of his daughter wanting to go to Italy for the summer and do all these things. And he's like, okay, that's great. You've got the vision. Now go about every day as if you're the person who just came back from that trip. And how do you do that, right? How do I go about today as if 1,000 people downloaded our podcast that went out yesterday? Like, what does that look like for me? And I think the practice of starting to be curious, because I don't know the answer to that. So now I've got to get really curious and really dig into, what does that feel like? Because if I can feel it, then I can be in the presence of it. And that starts to break the habit of being in the present of, only 5 people have listened to our podcast episode. It came out at 3:00 this morning.
Yeah. I'm going to end up dovetailing off of what we actually talked about in the last episode, which we did a quarter 1 review and discussed a little bit about our quarter 2 goals. So this is like perfect segue as to how you make these things happen. And for me, I mentioned that I wanted to continue this habit of going to the gym, but I realized after we had gotten off the recording that even more than just the habit of going to the gym, that I use a health app mostly because I'm a weird numbers geek, and so I like seeing numbers. And so I have a health app with a smartwatch, and I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I do. But my goal for the next quarter is to actually start hitting my activity goals every day. So I have a step goal, and there's an active minutes goal, and then that also has an active calories burned that goes with it. And I would love to start hitting that at minimum 5 days a week, ideally 7 days a week. Thankfully, I'm making this goal in the spring when we're headed into summer. So this is going to be a lot more achievable for me right now. And hopefully I can figure out how to make it sustainable into the winter. But I've already noticed going to the gym 3 days a week, I am feeling mentally better. That extra movement is helping me. So can I be more active even if I don't go to the gym one day? Having the horses to care for definitely helps because I automatically get a couple thousand steps by default. And I get probably 20 or 30 active minutes by default just because I am moving around doing a little bit more. But what can I do to help increase that in my daily life? And how does my life look if I am fitting that in? And what do I need to do to be able to allow the space for that? It's the same thing even with 1,000 downloads. If we're looking at having a goal of 1,000 downloads, that means we need to show up differently in order to get that. People are not just going to randomly show up out of nowhere. And the same is true about my time being active. That time and dedication to that goal has to come from somewhere. And so where does that come from and how does it fit into our lives and what does it look like when that becomes the normal for us?
Yeah, totally. Continuing the story of the daughter and going to Italy. So as the story progresses, she's now going about her life as if someone who's been in Italy. So she's in the library and she's having a conversation with a teacher and they both speak Italian. So they're sitting and they're speaking in Italian, which leads to her getting offered a job to teach Italian because she's stepping into the persona of somebody who's been there speaking Italian. She created that opportunity. And there are so many different ways that people teach this concept, stepping into the future vision. How can you make it real for you? One thing I meant to say before we hopped on to your whole, how do you bring your 5,000 steps into a day when you're not automatically getting that by just being you and doing your job? I did see recently on Instagram or Facebook, somebody was saying that, yeah, you can get all those steps, but if you do 10 squats every hour, so if you're on your computer and you stop and you just get up and you do 10 squats, that is the equivalent of doing all of those steps in a day and will actually give you more benefits. So just another way to think about it, right, is just remembering to get up and do some squats or do 5 push-ups or just do something, drop into a 30-second plank. I used to be all about these sort of hacks and then I forgot.
I think that's normal in our lives is we sort of have that spiral or cyclical thing where things come and things go. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so what can we do to be present with where do we really want to be? And I expect that you're right, that what it's going to look like for me is probably adding in on the days when I don't have outside work or active work or I'm going to the gym. It's probably just going to mean adding in breaks at the computer, which is helpful anyway. And figuring out like, okay, so maybe I take 10 minutes and I do some sort of physical exercise, like you said, like squats or whatever. And then I go throw a load of laundry in, or I bring the laundry back up from the basement because it's a whole flight of stairs. Or I go find something to do that will break up my monotony of being at the computer and be active. And 5,000 steps, honestly, it's not that hard, you know, and really on days when I'm planning to ride or I'm going to go to the gym, I usually blow through 5,000 and hit 7, 8, or 9,000 pretty easily. So 5,000, I feel like this is what Barb talked about in the previous episode too. 5,000 is the minimum threshold between sedentary and active. So, but on the days when I don't have a lot of physical work, it takes conscious effort to make sure I get there. So that's what I want to incorporate into my day is how does that get to a level where it's just natural? So the same thing is true of the podcast or business goals. How does it get to the point where doing the steps that are needed to achieve the goal become natural?
Totally. Well, and then there's other hacks that I know I have to put in place because I'm not really good at setting that time. The other day, I sat myself down and I was so tired and I was supposed to be meeting a friend about a course I'm creating for her. And I sat down and she wasn't available. So I was like, okay, I will get the other things done that I need to get done. And there's this voice in my head. I don't want to. I'm so tired. I can't do this. I don't want to. And I'm like, do it anyway. So I actually was super stoked. I took my inbox from 276 emails down to 77, which was amazing.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And now I'm not as scared of my inbox, which was great. And then I slowly moved into doing another job for a course I've been creating for my dad, which was doing emails. And it was kind of a repetitive. I was using ChatGPT to help me create them. And so it was just to cut this, paste this, create it, edit it, put it in. And I'm like, I'll do one. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll do another one. I'll do another one. You know what? I'm halfway through. Let's just keep going. But what it meant was when I sat down, I didn't get myself a glass of water. And so I actually resistingly sat there for 2.5 hours without moving. And if I get my big mason jar of water and a cup of tea and I ingest those liquids whilst I'm sitting there, there is no way I can sit for 2.5 hours without having to get up and move because I have to go pee.
Yeah, you have to go pee.
But if I forget to get the water, then I forget to move. And even though I didn't want to, I buckled myself in and didn't move for 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I didn't set a timer because I wasn't going to be there that long. And so there's this bit of intention. And I think this is where we want to move into the next part of the conversation. Even when you're in resistance, we need to create habits and we need to create intentions, because when we have those things, it is really easy to identify the wins. But if we're not intentional, it's harder to see what we actually did and to put those wins in place. And when you start to create a mindset around, well, every day at the end of the day, I have to sit down and I have to go into my Substack chat and I have to write the 3 wins that I created this day. Well, the reason why we've started to put in what we're planning on doing tomorrow is because that makes it way easier to then at the end of the day figure out what the wins were. Because, well, actually I didn't do those, but I did these instead. And it's that just that little bit of intention actually creates the wins, which starts to make you see that the small steps that you're taking are having some result.
Yeah.
And human beings basically are only motivated by a couple of things. Number one is the pain. We will not do anything unless the pain of not doing it is bigger than the pain of doing it. Is that right? So if it's not painful enough, if the flippin' pot is not boiling hot enough that you actually have to get off of it, you will sit and stew and slowly cook yourself. And when it finally gets to the boiling point where you're like, no, I'm seriously actually going to cook, that's when you will get out. But that is like human beings 101, is we will not do anything until the pain is big enough. So we have to create something that makes it worthwhile to step into that benefit.
Yeah. We have to get to a point where we know that the benefit is going to give us what we need.
Yeah.
We often fall in the trap of shoulding ourselves. This is where the shoulds like to live, is I should do this. I should go to the gym. I should get my computer work done. I should. But there's value in that in-between space of considering, am I a person who goes to the gym?
Yeah.
Am I the person who regularly not only gets my computer work done, but is present enough that I don't sit here for 2 hours straight, locked in the same position, not moving? And so we have to be able to consider that long enough that suddenly that switch flips and we're like, yeah, I am the person that goes to the gym. I am the person that's active during my day. I am the person that can get my computer work done and remembers to move in between so that my body is getting the nourishment that it needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing is follow somebody who is successful in whatever you're doing, right? That was something else that came up in the book yesterday, was if you're wanting to move into a space, learn more about whatever it is. If you want to be a wizard, learn about wizardry. Of course, I remembered that bit. So I'm like, I want to be a wizard. Yes, I do.
Right? Find books about wizardry.
Right,
okay.
Exactly. Hold on a second. I think I'm trying to break that habit. But I'm going to pause and just take a moment to say, if you like this podcast, if you're enjoying this podcast, if you know somebody who you think would benefit from this podcast, please share it, because we would just love if we could expand the people that we reach, as we've been talking about. And sharing really tells somebody that you care about them, you are thinking about them. And what better way to do that than sending them a little gift of something you think would help them in their lives. So please hit the share button. And then if something has come up for you, if you haven't taken a moment, please go in and write a comment. Tell us what one of your wins is. Tell us what are you wanting to create in the next 3 months, and let us be here to support you. And while you're at it, go in and subscribe to us on Substack, because that will really help you join our wins chat, which we can support you. We can create a space for you to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm just going to tell you about something that is really important to me, which is the supplements that I take. And I don't really care what brand you use, but it is really important that we support our health. And I have been for the last, since 2020, so now what, that's 2020, it's 5 years.
5 years.
So I've been taking a supplement, a liquid collagen supplement. I was not able to go for long walks. I was not able to run. I wasn't able to do a lot of things. And I started taking this collagen supplement. It comes along with a business opportunity. And the reason why I stepped into these things was not so much because I needed to take collagen. It wasn't so much because I want to start a multi-million-dollar business selling supplements online. All of these things are great, but it was to expand me. So if there is something that you can do to expand yourself, look closer. And I would love it if you would take a look at my Trinance products, because they are amazing. And I've just started one that is a For Her supplement that is really blowing people's minds on what it's doing for people in perimenopause, in menopause, and beyond. And I think that is something really important. And I think it's really, really cool that we have started talking about women's health and this phase of life that so many of us go through. All of us, if we're female. So I'm just really excited that this has been brought in. That's what I love about the collagen. I'm heading into my 47th year here in a couple of months, and I think I've picked 5 white hairs out of my head. And I'm hoping that the reason it's only been 5 is because of the collagen I take. So that's my little spiel. And now back to our conversation.
Yeah, I love it. You got to really find the tools, right? It's about finding the tools that are going to work for whatever your goal is. And I think that's the thing about the presence and intention. This is what we talked about in the last episode, right? You have to be present with where you are, and then you have to have intention, and you have to focus. And the thing about that intention piece is you have to be aware of what it is you're really working towards. And this is what I found with the animals that really showed me the incredible value of this. I think it's probably one of the most undervalued skills is the power of intention. And if you have a pet and you're asking your pet to do something and you are not focused on exactly what it is you want them to do, there's a 99% chance they're not going to do it. The really easy example is the dog is barking too much, right? You want the dog to stop barking. When you're making that ask, if the only thing that's in your head is the dog barking, they're not going to stop barking. And when I discovered this with pets, that the clearer your intention is, the more crisp it is that you are holding a vision of exactly what you do want, the higher the likelihood is that you're going to get it. So the sheer fact that if you're working on a goal for yourself, if you have clarity of intention, that goal is 90% more likely to happen regardless of what you actually do. Because the clarity is what's going to help you take the right steps at the right time to get to where you want to go. So it applies to pets and animals, but it applies to the rest of our lives. And I think most of us just sort of bumble along, kind of waffling through life, not really thinking about what it is we want and where we want to go and what we want to do. And I know the people that I have studied and followed that are highly, highly, highly successful are the ones that have that clarity. And they're the ones that have daily practices like the 3 wins and your 3 intentions for tomorrow. They review those things that they want, those quarterly goals. What is your focus? What is your intention? They review those and they keep them present constantly. And that is the only way to have that clarity of intention, is to make sure that it's in front of your face somehow and that you remember when you wake up, what is your intention for the bigger picture, so that all of your steps today are guided by that intention. At night, when you wrap up your evening, you're getting ready for bed, like you talked about, you're excited to be able to do your yoga, your exercise routine the next day, recording our podcast, whatever it is for your business, you're excited about that. You have clarity of intention before you go to sleep about where you're going and what your focus is going to be for the next day. That is the only way that we're going to be able to achieve things. I shouldn't say the only way. That is probably the fastest way. That cuts out all the waffling around in the weeds in the middle that we all get stuck in. That doesn't mean you won't get caught in the weeds, but it means that you're going to cut through a lot of them and not get bogged down. Because when a weed pops up, you're going to go, no, that's not my intention. That's not where my focus needs to be, and refocus back to where you want to be.
Yeah, there's so much in that. You put that really well. And I just want to reflect that when you're biking, it's the same thing. That's one thing that I've said to people: go out on a bike ride and pick. Like, today I'm going to really think about how I'm cornering. Don't worry about anything else. Just think about your corners. Today I'm going to think about really being in flow on my bike and moving it from side to side and really being balanced and having my feet in the right place and just noticing when I'm balanced and when I'm not, and bringing myself back into balance if I come out of balance. Today I'm going to focus on looking ahead and really scanning the trail. Every time you go out for your bike ride, pick one thing that you're going to focus on. And then the cool thing is that you start to be able to see the results. And that's where we were thinking about taking this conversation today, was about having the ability to notice when things get better. I have been very intentional about working out since I got back from my Mexico retreat. That was January 22nd or something like that. And we're now in April, so that's 4 months. And what's interesting is I saw a post the other day, and it was like, this girl was like, in 4 months, look at the body change. And I was like, oh man, that's incredible. And then I was like, hold on, I'm almost at 4 months. And like, I can do push-ups back on my toes. Again, I wasn't able to do that. And I was so sad about that. But now I can see that. My yoga, I can see the difference in how I'm holding poses. And I'm now ready to step into that next level. I'm starting to be able to level up because I've been able to see where I was, where I am now, and now reviewing and going, okay, I'm here. Right. Where to next? What am I going to step into? And that's another thing that we're talking about in the book. Your system is wired in a certain way because that's how you've wired it. And when you try to rewire the system, it's going to be like, nope, and it's going to try and snap back. Your muscles, when you're doing an exercise, things want to stay where they are because that's how you've programmed them. So being in that presence, being able to notice that desire to snap back allows you to actually not snap back. But as soon as we go unconscious, then we're just going to snap back. If you're not conscious about the way you are with your partner, and you're like, I'm going to be the best wife, and I'm not going to get angry, and I'm not going to respond, and I'm not going to react, and your system is like, yeah, but this is how we respond. This is how we respond. So being able to catch it and change, you will start to rewire.
Yeah. It's that choice point. And so often we feel like we don't have a choice When our dog does something that frustrates us, or our partner does something that frustrates us, that triggers us and gives us an emotional response, it feels like we don't have a choice. Yeah. But reality is we do. And we have to slow down long enough to find that moment where we can consider a different way of being. And you're absolutely right. Your nervous system will try to pull you back. It will try to take you back to your familiar bad feeling place, like Laura Michelle says, because that's what's normal. The challenge is that normal isn't actually necessarily good or healthy or desirable. It's just the set point that your system has become defaulted to. And so we've got to figure out how to teach the system that it needs a different default. And I've encountered this when I've been riding, as my riding instructor has worked on my body balance, because my body is not even left to right. And so I have a lot of weird things about it that I'm not even aware of because it's all very subconscious. And so when she would ask me to do something, I would think I was doing it. And she's like, no, your weight is still off to one side. You're still not even. And she would have to put me in these positions that would actually finally trigger my nervous system to go, oh, hold up. That isn't what I thought it was. And the problem is, in the beginning, the alarm bells go off, right? It sets off every alarm bell in your nervous system. You're like, oh, I'm falling off. It feels like you're falling to one side when you're actually level, because your body's norm is crooked. And that is true of so many things in our life. It's the way our nervous system works, and it's the way a lot of things work, that when we just get a familiar set point, we can't recognize that might not be the ideal place for us. And again, this is why intention is so important. You have to have a very crystal clear intention. Then you have to be able to focus on it and bring your focus back to it over and over again, because your body and your system is going to want to go back to the normal set point. And that's why it all works together, but it takes repeatedly, continually insisting that you're going to choose something different.
Totally. And noticing when you're uncomfortable, because that's the alarm bell. I'm uncomfortable. I listen to books and I'm like, even yesterday, I'm listening away. And then he says something about like, if you want to be a wizard, you have to learn about being a wizard. And I was just like, oh, now you're asking me to do something. No, I'm not. I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to passively listen. Or on the call this morning for my Trinod stuff, and she's like, okay, now jump off the call and message 3 people. Like, how many people?
You're like, I gotta go do a workout now, though.
I got something else to do. Notice at that point where you're actually called to do something different, what happens? Because that right there is the key. That is the habit that you're wanting to break. The habit of being yourself. Your habit is to listen to the inspiring podcast. Like, we've said, hey, join us in our wins chat. And you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. But have you hit the subscribe button and come in and said, hey, I'm going to join you in this space? Or are you just passively listening? Have you commented and told us what your wins are? What action have you taken? Have you gotten up and done 10 squats? Because you've been sitting here now for half an hour listening to us and you haven't moved for the last half an hour. Like, when we mentioned 10 squats, did you do it? Or are you just being passive? When we did the affirmation, and I'm going to close us out with the affirmation, because if you didn't do it with us before because you felt silly, do it with us now. Or did you just listen and say, oh, that's a nice concept, but whatever. I always have more money than I need. And I cannot help but attract a lot of money into my life. So take an action.
Yeah.
And then measure it, because that's where I get uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think that what's so important there is being in that discomfort, being okay in the discomfort. Because if you can't be uncomfortable and teach your system that that is okay, it doesn't mean anything is wrong, then that is how you're able to actually start achieving whatever it is you want to achieve. Because it doesn't really matter what your goal is, whether it's a physical fitness goal, whether it's a diet goal, whether it's a goal with your pets, or whether it's a business goal, even financial goals. Financial goals trigger a lot of discomfort when you start digging into that. Yeah. And can you sit in that discomfort long enough that your system goes, oh, okay, we're not dying. We're still safe. Maybe this is not so bad. Maybe I should explore here more. Mm-hmm. And that's what it takes when I'm riding, is when we find one of those sticky spots, one of those little blind spots in my body, I have to sit there long enough in that space where at first the body freaks out and then it goes, well, maybe it's not so bad. That takes 5 to 10 minutes while I'm riding to sort it out. And when we're talking about these types of patterns, whether it's in business or something like that, where you're actually trying to work on things, that pattern can come back up over and over and over and over again. Just because you got your inbox down to 70 today doesn't mean it's going to be easy to sit down next Tuesday and do it all over again.
No, because
you're going to have to sit down in the discomfort again.
But that was the easy
job. And work on it again.
Now I've got to do the hard pieces. And I was just going to conclude that with, you're not water. Water has a boiling set point of whatever temperature it is. That's never going to change. But it does change if water changes. If it's snow or it's something else like gas.
If it has salt in it, that'll lower the boiling point.
That'll change it. So remember that you can change that set point. Whatever it is, exactly as you just said, it's changeable. There are certain laws in nature that are not. You're not one of them.
I love that.
So thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We really appreciate it. If this has helped you, please let us know and share it with somebody, because I would love it if you would help us with my goal of getting our downloads to 1,000. And that's going to take us really putting ourselves out there a little bit more. So please help. That would mean the world to us. My name is Natasha Lockie. I am a mountain bike and a life performance coach. I am here to help you step into the dream life that you want. Sometimes I doubt myself in that space. And then I hear stories about someone the other day. She was at a retreat in Mexico, which, this is a very long story short, that she jumped into the pool. And that was a really big deal for her. And it really opened my mind to being like, wow, we can be so small. And if you do something that is outside of your comfort zone, and it can be something that to somebody else is like, what do you mean? Like, if there's a body of water, I jump into it. But for this lady, that was literally life-changing. And I want to help you find that thing that is life-changing for you. That one small shift or really big move, no matter what it actually is, to allow you to change your perspective on everything. And that's what I am in the world to do, to hold space for you to create that. So you can find me at Betty Gohard on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Natasha Lockie, and you can find me Substack, Natasha Lockie. I'm over here changing people's perspectives of the world. Ginny, tell us about you.
Yeah. I'm an animal communicator and an energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are having some challenges with your pets, whether that's emotional or behavioral, or you just want to know more, that would be a great reason to have a session together. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com or on Substack, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the same handle. We really appreciate you hanging on this ride through the weeds with us today. It has certainly been a wild one, and we would love to see you back in the next one.
Awesome, everyone. Have a fabulous rest of your day. Thanks for being here.